Working with dates and durations in programming languages has always been difficult, mostly because of all of the edge cases like leap years and determining how many weeks between two dates when months have different numbers of days in them and that kind of thing. I want to show you in this lesson that C# makes it very easy to calculate durations and define dates and to display dates in nicely formatted ways. Let's begin by defining a date. Christmas, for instance. So you say datetime, Christmas, equals new datetime. And now there's a number of ways that you can define this. I'm pressing the down arrow. You can see that you can define the year, month, hour, minute, second, or put in a type of calendar like the Gregorian calendar, etc. And many other ways, even add milliseconds and that kind of thing. What I want to do here is to just show how you can define a date. So we'll do Christmas for this year, and then we'll display it. For instance, Christmas this year is on, and we type the variable with a toString and then give it some kind of format. D is a very nicely formatted date with the name of the weekday, as you'll see here. Christmas this year is on Saturday, December 25th, 2010. And of course, you'll say, oh, that's very nice in English, but what if I'm working in German, for instance? Well, you can very easily define a culture. And here, let me take this out here, because this is what will happen when you type this in. Type culture info, and culture info uses a library called globalization, which is not yet referenced here. And so Visual Studio gives you a little option to add it automatically using system globalization, which is added here. And now you're able to use that class. So culture info, culture equals new culture info. And I'm going to define it as German, which is DE. And now when I type this line, I'm doing a Control-C, Control-V. I'm doing a Control-X to delete that and put it in the scrap and doing a Control-V. And I am going to add in the toString the culture. And when we run this, you see that Samstag, 25. Dezember 2010 is in German. And you can do this with any culture. Let's try it in French, for instance. Culture 2. So this year is on Samedi 25 décembre 1900. I can't read that. But you can see you can choose almost any language. If you need to look these up to find your culture, you can search for culture info list in Google and, for instance, get in MSDN the whole list here. So you can just substitute these in. Also, you can look up ways of formatting dates. Here I used a D. If you search for C# date format in Google, you'll find a list like this where it has the simple letters which display the dates in many various ways. One particularly useful one is S, sortable date time pattern, which I use when I want to express dates that I need to sort, for instance, in a text file. So you could have, for instance, date time now equals date time now, and then you can display it now toString with that S. And if you run it, you see that it is displayed with year, month, day, and then a 24-hour, hour, minute, second. So if you sorted these in any text file, then it would be in date order. If you also look at that list, you'll see that you can put in custom formatting. So for instance, let's say you wanted to have some kind of format like this, where if it was January, you wanted to have some kind of month code like this, January, with a 01. And if it was February, it would be 02 February, for instance. Then you could format it like this. The month code is this, and we'll do now toString. This is the month code, and for M's, is it spelled out? I'm doing Control-C, Control-V, month code for also Christmas, and let's take a look at that. So we have the number of the month, in 2 digits and then the name of the month. Not only can you customize the formatting of dates very easily, but you can also calculate them very easily. Let me show you a couple examples of calculating dates. For instance, Christmas Eve is on, So we'll take Christmas, we'll add, and I can add days, hours, milliseconds, minutes. I'm going to add days, and I'm going to add -1 days, which is like subtracting days. And then I'm going to chain this together with a toString and give it the all familiar D, which we used above. And we'll see how that looks. And yes, Christmas Eve is on Friday, December 24th, which is correct. Add extra space in there. Note also that any date variable has many properties on it that are very useful. For instance, year. So you can say the year is, and then now dot, and I've got year here. You also have month, second, minute, etc. So if I'm doing control space now, which turns it into year because that was the only property that started with YE. And if we run it, we see that it actually works, 2010. In the same way, you can calculate duration between 2 days. So we could say there are so many days till Christmas. And we would need Christmas. Let me move this. Christmas subtract. And it's wanting now a date time value. So we're going to type in now. So subtract now from Christmas and display. We have here total days, total hours, total milliseconds. We want total days. And let's look how that shows up. There are 139.3235, etc. days till Christmas. Not exactly what we wanted. So let's reformat it. You can just say here that you want the whole number, and you can make phrases like this very easily with calculating the duration between days like that. Let me show you another way of calculating duration. For instance, date time, you have a start of day, and that is a date time just as we defined above, but above we only had the year, month, and date. Now we're going to type in a year, a month, let's say August 1st, and at 9 o'clock and 0 minutes and 0 seconds. So that's how it looks. And so now we have that point in time. And now we're going to create a duration, which in C# is called time span. And we'll call this, for instance, length of meeting. And this is a new time span. And it is 1 hour. And now it's asking for the minutes and the seconds. So we'll say 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 0 seconds. And so we want to calculate the next available time slot, which is a date time. Next available time slot equals, and we'll take start of day and add the duration or the time span, which is the length of meeting. So now we have a date time, which is this date plus this duration. And we can display it. I am available at this time. And that is next available time slot with it formatted in, let's put it at hour, minute format. And we'll look at how that looks. And it says I am available at 10:15, which is correct because 9 o'clock plus 1 hour and 50 minutes is 10:15. If we change this to 11 o'clock and run it, we see that he's then available at 12:15, which is correct. One of the great things about all of these functions is that they also take into account the edge cases like leap years, etc. So you don't have to worry about that at all, which is a great relief if you have ever had to calculate dates and durations in languages which didn't have all of these convenient functions. So I hope in this lesson you were convinced that C# makes dates, times, and durations very easy to work with.